At a time when aviation industry is in the news for all the wrong reasons, SpiceJet wants to chart a different path. 737-8 MAX is a new aircraft that it has on board, one that is perhaps going to be more fuel efficient and many people believe could be the game changer for this airline. In conversation with us right here on ET Now is Ajay Singh of SpiceJet. Thank you very much for being with us. Congratulations on what they sometimes call this new beast of sorts. I will first begin with this machine. 737-8 MAX, many people believe could be a game changer. Is that hyperbole? What are the advantages of this and how does this significantly reduce both maintenance, aviation cost and all of that?
I think it's a superb plane. The MAX 8 is a plane that saves on average 14% fuel. Incredibly important at this difficult time when fuel costs are going up. It saves us about 30% on engineering cost, and it's great for the consumers because it has several features that the old MAX did not have. It can fly longer distances, so it gives to an airline the ability to fly to new destinations which were out of reach of the old plane. That's a huge plus as well. From a consumer's perspective, besides the new destinations, there are these premium economy seats that we put in this aircraft, and there are 36 of them. It just gives you more comfort as you fly longer distances on this aircraft. It's a quieter plane, about 40% less noise than the old plane. So all of this makes flying an even more pleasurable experience, and from the airline's perspective, it reduces cost.
So from the cockpit point of view, I think sitting from the cockpit, it's only fair to ask, where is this airplane going to be deployed? Which routes is this going to fly on? Is this going to be an exclusive fleet for that route?
No, we have ordered 205
right.
planes. Yes. This is the first one which has come in. So clearly, this is going to fly across the country and internationally and so on. Of course, with its longer range, there are more international destinations that it can reach than the previous plane. This particular one is likely to fly the Delhi-Hong Kong route, which is what we are starting on the 22nd of November. And we are the first, SpiceJet is the first low-cost airline to fly the Delhi-Hong Kong route. So we think it's a really nice plane for those kind of routes.
So while we are talking about Hong Kong, what are the other plans for other international routes, given that 205 of these will arrive? Many people have been wondering, when do you begin flying Europe? And to see a red in the sky is always a good sight.
Yes, it's a great sight, and we with these new planes we've added Bangkok from several destinations, several airports. We've started a flight from Hyderabad to Bangkok for the first time. We've started a flight from Amritsar Bangkok for the first time. We're already doing Delhi Bangkok and Calcutta Bangkok. So Bangkok will become an important destination for us. We fly to 7 countries at this time. We will increase that over time. I don't want to take away from the announcements as they finally get made, but of course we will look at all these destinations within a 6-hour radius of India as potential destinations. Of course, there are possibilities of flying with a stop to longer destinations than that.
I think we're talking ahead of the festive season, but we're also talking at a time when Indian aviation seems to be hitting a pocket of turbulence, and the latest one of that is the hike in ATF duties. How is this going to impact profits? How is this going to impact operations? And just ahead of festive season, is it perhaps an intelligent guess to make that fares are likely to go up on account of this?
Well, certainly. Firstly, the increase in duty on aviation turbine fuel doesn't really impact most airlines because this is for importing aviation turbine fuel, which practically no airline really does. So now, having said that, of course, there's tremendous pressure because of the increase in oil prices, the depreciation of the rupee, given that so many of our costs are dollar denominated. So we need to do a few things. Firstly, on the airline side, of course, we will introduce new technology of this sort of MAX planes, which will help us reduce our cost over time as the planes become a larger and larger proportion of our fleet. In addition to that, I think all airlines need to be responsible and try and raise fares. Because with the costs going up, it's only fair that those costs are passed on to consumers. like you correctly said, the festive season is coming up. This is a good time to try and raise fares.
Yes.
And my bet would be that airlines would certainly raise fares because everybody is hurting at this point of time. So I expect fares to go up. In addition to fares going up and costs, I would think the fares will go up at least 15%. It's really important for the health and viability of this industry.
But does a 15% hike in fare impact passenger traffic?
Look, today average fare between Delhi and Mumbai, for example, is 3,700 rupees, right? 15% increase would probably take it to 4,200 rupees. I really doubt that with that kind of an increase, the traffic is going to be impacted. When the market grows 20% and the underlying demand is so strong, I really believe that you could pass on an increase in fares without demand getting impacted in any significant way. But beyond what airlines themselves are doing, I think it's important for governments also to ensure that the sector remains viable. And this is not to say that the industry is asking for any dole or package or whatever you might want to call it.
Some noises around that, yes.
So what we are saying is that, look, bring us on par as an industry with our peers around the world. Around the world, there is no tax on aviation turbine fuel. Where there is a tax, aviation turbine fuel is always part of a central taxation regime like the
and here
GST.
You are not. Yes.
And therefore, the net effective rate of tax is zero. So we need that to happen.
Why is it not happening? Because when you talk about petrol and diesel, people want to put it under the GST. This was a proposal, it didn't go before the cabinet. So why do you believe this is not happening?
I think that the proposal which was to be put up before the council, our understanding of that proposal was that it was revenue neutral to the government because it called for an increase in output tax, and perhaps that increase in output tax is what bothered policy makers. So we see, but ultimately this is a question of just creating more transparency in the system, to say that whatever is the input tax is transparently passed on. I think it's extremely important for the aviation sector that this structural reform needs to happen. In addition to that, the state governments as well, many of whom had taken up VAT as oil prices fell, need to bring VAT down again. There are several state governments which are doing it. Today, Andhra, Telangana, they have VAT at 1%. Governments like the UP government have come up with a new notification on VAT for ATF, as has West Bengal, and several others are looking at this. And it's clear that traffic will shift to those states disproportionately, where costs are lower.
Policy prescriptions can't preside over the death of a sector, and in some sense this is about the viability of aviation. But I will ask another question on ATF before I move forward. I think in Q2, ATF prices rose by 40%. We are looking at crude oil at about $85–86 a barrel for Q3. The rupee has been on a downward slide. One doesn't know where that's going to stem. How do you see that impacting margins in EBITDA? I'm not asking you to make a forward-looking statement, but from an industry and from a SpiceJet point of view.
Well, of course, this has a gravely negative impact. There's no question about it. So, what has happened is that the rupee depreciating and the oil price going up has happened very suddenly. There's been no time to adjust to this.
It's over time, a double whammy of sorts.
Double whammy. Over time, of course, there will be an adjustment. Costs will come down. Policies will be modified. Revenues will go up, both in terms of passenger as well as ancillary and so on. So there will be an adjustment which will be made over time.
Right.
But because this has happened so suddenly, there is this impact. But I think we should look upon this adversity as an opportunity and try and see that we fast forward all this process of trying to reduce costs, we fast forward the process of trying to increase revenues, and we look at policy changes which may have been unpalatable a few months and even a few weeks back, but perhaps it's time to take a relook.
When you say unpalatable, you're essentially talking about ATF under GST.
ATF under GST is one. There are certain duties that have been imposed after the GST regime came into existence.
That's right,
on import of services, on import of certain goods related to aviation. and that has increased cost as well. And these were all at zero rated items in the past.
If I may ask you, as somebody who represents Indian industry, and one doesn't get to answer this question to a lot of people like you, this whole talk about import duties being hiked because we need to curb the current account deficit, or a policy prescription to rein in the rupee. In some sense, many people believe, value-wise it may not result in too much, but are we in some sense turning our back to economic liberalization, which actually held us in good stead?
I don't want to make a overarching and generalized statement on this. I can just say to you that from aviation's perspective, trying to increase import duty on services which don't even exist in our country is just increasing the cost of aviation, which creates an imbalance and puts us at a disadvantage to our peers around the world, increasingly with whom we need to compete in the global space.
But Mr. Singh, I think talking about pure operations, from a passenger load factor point of view, you've done remarkably well. You've been one of the best performers there. But from a market share point of view, you still lag some of the big guys, whether it's Air India or whether it's Jet or Indigo. How concerning a factor is that, and how do you plan to bridge this sort of a divide between passenger load factor on one share and market share?
Well, as you said correctly, we have had a very high load factor. For 40 months, we've flown excess of 92%. In addition to that, we've had 14 straight profitable quarters. And our focus has really been on trying to retain our margins, on trying to remain profitable. We believe that as our aircraft come in, our market share will go up in any case. Our focus is not really on market share. In aviation, it's quite easy to increase, on a short-term basis your market share, because you drop the fares and your market share goes up. But this is not sticky market share. The moment you try and take up fares again you lose it. So SpiceJet has taken a conscious call that we will focus on margins. We will focus on trying to retain a healthy business and not run after market share.
So you made a very conscious choice that you're going to concentrate on PLF instead of market share. Fair point. I wanted to ask a quick question on the rupee when we were talking about that. Given the fact that the rupee is kind of sliding and now the IMF has raised these red flags that emerging market currencies could be in a bit of a rout, how do you plan to rein in those forex losses? I mean, what sort of hedging strategy will you have in place?
Well, we are looking to see what all we can do. I think one obvious thing that we need to do is to increase our dollar revenue. As we fly with this new plane, we can fly longer distances, we fly more international. Dollar revenue we hope can increase. We are looking at various forms of hedges. We are looking to see if certain products, on the ancillary side, such as our cargo services, etc., can be dollar denominated. So we will look to see what best the airline can do, and we do hope that the government will also step in to support the rupee, because this is hurting, I'm sure, the economy in a larger way than just aviation.
I'm not so sure if markets and currency markets are anymore listening to the government or the RBI, and I think we're a part of the global route. But having said that, I think you're absolutely right, the rupee needs to be reined in. But there are these speculative reports, and I think as a journalist it's only fair that I get you to give me a decisive sort of a comment on that. Talks of an alliance with foreign carriers, getting strategic or financial players on board. Anything in the pipeline that
Nothing in the pipeline at this time.
Nothing in
there, because when people look at the Indian market and they see that it's the fastest growing market in the world, and some airlines have been doing well in the recent past. So there are always offers and suggestions and speculation, but there's nothing specific in the pipeline.
You have been a very strong and a very supportive player as far as the government's UDAN program is concerned. You're flying to smaller destinations. I did not know you're flying to Shirdi. I just figured that out today. But when you fly to destinations, are those profitable routes? Because they say that the passenger traffic, after all, is going to be just so much and not more.
I think passenger traffic in India always surprises. Destinations, look, under UDAN we've started, I'll tell you some of the routes we've started. We started flights into Kanpur. Can you imagine the industrial heartland of UP had not even one single flight. Jalandhar, rich city in Punjab, not a single flight. Jaisalmer, great tourist destination, not a single flight.
Jaisalmer did not have a flight?
Did not have a flight. SpiceJet's UDAN flight was the first flight. we started flights now to Pakyong in Sikkim. It's a beautiful, beautiful place with absolutely zero flights. We started a flight to Ajmer Sharif, yesterday. Again, it's a place where
Lots of traffic goes.
There's going to be a lot of traffic, and there were no flights. So we believe that there are great opportunities on this route. And to your question on profitability, we believe that all these routes, pretty much every route is profitable. There could be one or two outliers, but pretty much everything is profitable.
A quick word on funding for your expansion plans, and then we move into the aircraft and just get a view of what the 7 MAX really looks like. I think the markets will be interested to know any funding plans that you have in place. Is this all going to be?
We've always said that whenever it is required, there will be a funding plan. But the company has done quite well over the last 14 quarters, it's a pretty liquid company in the sense that all these aircraft coming in, there is also SLB profits and other things that accrue to the company. So we'll see how things go. I don't want to comment any more on that, but we think that it's a very comfortable position at the moment for SpiceJet. Of course, what can one say about the future?
Fair point. And from that comfortable position, we're going to move to a more comfortable aircraft. We're really in the cockpit here, cramped for space. But we're going to move there and talk about the general health of aviation and some significant players who are perhaps seeing a lot of red. We're back in this beautiful aircraft, and I can tell you one thing, there is plenty of legroom, and if you do get to fly 787 MAX, do that, because I think it's an experience that you're going to cherish. But there's an experience that I think the flyers at large in the industry is not cherishing, and that's Jet Airways. I know it's your competitor, and I know you may not want to directly comment, but Q2 losses, many people expect those to be in the range of 9,000 to 10,000 crore rupees, salaries not being paid. How do you view the situation there? Is this another kingfisher in the making? How worried are you about the health of Jet Airways and the way forward? And both in terms of management and flyers, is it safe to fly Jet at all? A lot of people are beginning to question.
The only thing I will say on Jet Airways is that Mr. Naresh Goyal, the promoter of Jet Airways, is a very experienced and smart business person. And many times in the past, people have counted Jet Airways and him out. So I think that you should be careful about, counting him out. He has shown time and time again that in sticky situations, he can get his company out of trouble. So let's all hope for the best, and let's hope that we don't have a casualty in the Indian aviation space. In general, of course, as you know, that the aviation sector is facing terrific headwinds here, and we need to find structural solutions for them, both within the airlines and outside the airlines.
No, I don't think writing off Jet in any case is going to be good for flyers. They need to be more options, and I agree with you there. But as somebody who scripted the turnaround story for SpiceJet, if you were in the cockpit of sorts at Jet Airways, what would the script or the turnaround script be for Jet Airways right now? Because whether it's the management or whether it's employees or banks, there are a lot of stakeholders whose interest is at stake.
No, of course, I'm sure Jet is doing all that they can. I mean, they will be trying to reduce cost, and they will be trying to increase revenue. That's pretty much what you need to do. And of course, in SpiceJet's case, it was a question of trying to renegotiate contracts to bring costs down. It was a question of trying to see how best you could increase revenue, how best you could jig the network to try and get maximum yield. So I'm sure those are steps that Jet will be taking. Of course, the problems are being compounded by the fact that the external environment has become
also very tough.
So tough.
Mr. Singh, I know a lot of people will call this an audacious question, but I think it's only fair that I ask you, because this is a question on people's minds. They may not voice it. Will you be open to acquiring Jet or its loyalty program? Its market cap has crashed by over 70% in the last 6 months. Is this a candidate that you could perhaps look at?
Look, SpiceJet has a massive expansion plan of its own. We are getting 205 of these planes. In addition, we've started a freighter business to get into the cargo and logistics business, and that will have an expansion plan of its own. I think we have enough on our plate, battling the external environment, making sure that SpiceJet remains healthy in the years to come. So I think our focus needs to remain really on SpiceJet.
When we talk about the macros, I think I'll have to end with a question that you've answered before. It's only fair that we ask you this again. Air India was put on the block and it didn't find any takers. Why were you not interested?
I think it was a huge sort of problem to try and resolve. I think
was it being resolved in the wrong way?
Like I said, you know, we have enough on our plate to look at something that large. You know, everybody is aware of the issues that surround Air India, and I think government is trying to resolve some of those issues now. Perhaps it will be a better candidate on a future date. I do think, however, that just as government is trying to assist Air India in its current form, the government needs to look at the entire aviation sector and assist the entire aviation sector as well. You know, while it might be, you know, it's their call to, of course, fund Air India and spend a few thousand crores on it at this time, and it's probably important and necessary for them to do so, but they need to look at the rest of the sector and ensure that the whole sector remains healthy.
No, you need a viable aviation sector for India to be a developed economy, but I think the obvious question and the counterpoint to that is that should the government be bailing out aviation? Because maybe not you, but there are lots of aviation players out there who have very irresponsible promo schemes, who have very reckless loyalty programs. Should taxpayers' money be put there? If a rescue package will mean taxpayers' money?
Certainly not, and nobody is asking for a bailout.
Right.
All that we are asking for as the industry is that that we are put and provided a level playing field with our peers overseas. So if they are not taxed on aviation turbine fuel, if you look at the top 10 countries, aviation countries in the world, and look at the airlines there, none of those airlines have effectively any tax at all on aviation turbine fuel. Nobody pays any import duty on the import of services. Those countries that have minimal tax on ATF get input tax credit through GST type regimes. So all we are asking is not for a bailout or a package, we are asking for a level playing field. I don't think that the government ought to bail out individual airlines.
I understand.
But you should look at the health of the sector as a whole.
And I think that's only a viable sector that will ensure that India stays on the development track. But on that note, sir, thanks very much for being with us, and a fantastic aircraft that I hope to fly in very soon. Thank you very much for speaking to us on ATN.